I want to thank our reader for the great reading, and Karen Drucker, Gary Lynn Floyd, and our CSL music team for the wonderful music today. This month of July, our theme is creative expression. And we're talking today about your mistake is art. Our reading today said, what we label mistakes are actually opportunities to incorporate something new into our lives. What's key is how we react to them. So, how do you react to those mistakes that inevitably show up for each one of us at some point in our life? Think about that for a moment as I give you your question for the week. What is the one choice you might make today to recognize mistakes as brushstrokes on your life canvas, to reframe mistakes as opportunities, and to be willing to fail miserably to achieve greatly? One more time. What is the one choice you might make today to recognize mistakes as brushstrokes on your life canvas, to reframe mistakes as opportunities, and to be willing to fail miserably to achieve greatly? So, how might Spirit be using a current challenge in your life to paint something new? We tend to treat mistakes like detours or blemishes or even shameful secrets. But what if they were brushstrokes on the masterpiece of our becoming? What if your mistakes are not flaws in your painting, rather they are the art? The brilliant Albert Einstein wrote, "A person who never made a mistake never tried anything new." Remember learning to ride a bike? I remember. I'm fairly certain, like me, that you probably fell off a lot when you were trying to get the hang of it. And didn't it feel great when you could finally ride and be steady on that bicycle? I bet you made art out of your abilities at some point, maybe riding with no hands, right? Buddha said, there are only two mistakes one can make along the road to truth: not going all the way and not starting. How often in your life have you not started something or not finished it for fear of making a mistake? I know I've been there. How often have you thought that you would like to know how to play the piano or how to knit or create quilts or paint, and decided that you didn't have the talent for it, maybe even before you even tried? Those are all ways of you fearing making a mistake and not trying. Catherine Economou tells us, when you step outside the lines, you just might discover your soul's true shape. I know I'm always ready to discover my soul's true shape. Mistakes are not failures. They're invitations to opportunities. And we in Louisiana think about jazz a lot, and the wrong note becomes genius when it's followed by the right note. Creativity lives in that space where logic ends and exploration begins. Before I go on, let's try a little spiritual practice that I call mistake to masterpiece. Close your eyes and imagine a mistake you've made. Now, see that mistake as a splash of color on a canvas. And instead of erasing it, add something to it. Let it become a new form. You know, Peter Max suggested we can learn to use our creativity to make something out of our mistakes. And that's how Spirit works in our lives, giving us ways to make art from our mistakes. My mama was very good at that and taught me a great lesson when I was about 10. We had company coming for dinner, and I had begged to make a lemon dobosh cake for dessert, not realizing it wasn't nearly as easy as Mama made it look. Well, she agreed, and I went about making the cakes, even cutting them into very thin layers. I used dental floss and was very proud of myself because that was the solution I found long before it showed up on the internet, and they were wonderfully thin layers. I was also very proud of my lemon pie filling, and I had made it from scratch. The instructions said, put the layers together and let them rest in the refrigerator for about 20 to 30 minutes each before adding another layer. Well, hey, I was 10, so that 20 to 30 minutes lasted for about 2 layers. And then I decided it's probably not going to make a lot of difference, so I would cut the time down to about 5 or 10 minutes per layer. And as I was putting on the last layer, the cake started to slide. And I started crying because I had spent a long time working on this cake. But Mama came to the rescue. She got out her beautiful ambrosia bowl, took a large spoon and spooned the cake into layers in that bowl, and it looked wonderful. And when the guests said it was delicious and wanted to know where it came from or who made it, she said, "Oh, Larry made it. We call it Larry's Lemon Disaster Cake." Now, that's how we make mistakes and turn them into art. Mama was really, really good at that. She used to say presentation is everything. And boy, did she present my disaster, my mistake, as art for me. And I think that day I realized that things never quite are as bad as they may seem. And I can relate to this topic and to what the artist Bob Rose in our reading today said. We don't make mistakes. We just have happy little accidents. I think it might be important for us to remember that those happy little accidents that turned into something special in our lives, that we should remember them. Here's another spiritual practice. I call it the Oops Gallery. On an index card, write down one mistake that you're carrying with you. Now flip the card over and reframe that mistake as a blessing or a turning point. Now, the important part is to find a place in your room, maybe on the back of a door or in a frame, and create your own Oops Gallery. This gallery is going to help you remember that mistakes can be art. It allows you to reframe your mistakes as an opportunity for growth and for learning, as blessings in disguise. So celebrate those cards in your gallery often as sacred parts of your life. There was a little girl who lived in a village, and every day she went down to get water for her village, and she had 2 big pots that she carried on a rope across her shoulders, and one of the pots was cracked. So she would take the pots, go down to the river, and when she got back, the pot that wasn't cracked was full, but the pot that was cracked had lost about half of the water. And so after a while, she went to the wise man in the village and said, "I feel really bad that I have a cracked pot and I can only bring 1.5 pots of water back." And he said, "The next time you walk to the river, notice the path," which she did, and she noticed as she walked back from the river, the side that had the cracked pot on it had flowers growing along the path. So, the moral of this story is to remind us What we see as a mistake or as a blemish may be designed by God as watering hidden beauty. You know, I once told a friend, I made a mistake yesterday and I'm really upset about it. And my friend looked at me and said, "Oh, congratulations. That means you're human or brave or both." And that was certainly a different way of looking at it. She did listen to me and help me with my past regret. But I wish that I had thought then about mistakes being art, and that mistakes just meant I was human, or maybe brave enough to try something and mess it up. So if the oops gallery doesn't strike you, how about trying this practice? Write about your weekly mistake and then list what it taught you. So just choose one mistake that happened during the week and notice if you learned something from it, or if it helped you get redirected, or maybe perhaps you noticed the beauty God was trying to water. And there's another spiritual practice called reframing language. Instead of saying I messed up or I made a mistake, try using one of these phrases. I learned something new today. Yeah, maybe we learned it the hard way, but we did learn something nonetheless. Or, I'm evolving. Yep, even if what we learn doesn't work, it helps us discover what does work. Did you know how many failures that Edison had before he actually made a light bulb that worked? Or we could say, my soul got a new color today. I love this one. It's such a positive way of looking at a mistake. We all know that we miss the mark occasionally. And looking at our mistakes as opportunities can make it a lot easier to venture into those new opportunities that seem to be nagging at our soul. John F. Kennedy had a wonderful way of looking at failures. Here's what he said. Those who dare to fail miserably can achieve greatly. So this week, I challenge you to fail miserably at something while trying to achieve something new. Lao Tzu told us, a journey of 1,000 miles begins beneath one's feet. They don't have to be perfect feet. They just have to be the feet that show up. So take the first step. If there's something you've been putting off doing because it felt too difficult to complete, what if you took the first step and recognized that if you failed, you knew what not to do the next time? Personally, when I was in school, I always remembered the things that I got wrong on the test a lot longer than the ones I got right. Does that relate to any of it? There's a lesson in those mistakes. We can also try this spiritual practice called the mirror process. Each morning, look at yourself in the mirror and say this truth. Even in my flaws, I am a masterpiece in motion. Even in my flaws, I am a masterpiece in motion. And Rumi told us, don't grieve. Anything you lose comes round in another form. So even if you made a mistake and it appeared to cause some disaster, take heart in those words of Rumi. And remember, everything is in divine order. So whatever seems lost does show up again. The energy has probably just changed form. It's all divine energy. And though I saved it for last, this spiritual practice is a really important one. It's called the grace pause. Before you label anything that happened as a mistake, pause and ask yourself this question. What might Spirit be making of this? It might just be that Spirit's trying to show you a new way of being. Yogananda reminds us, don't mistake temporary setbacks for permanent defeat. They're divine redirections. And a lesson in the Course in Miracles says, you are not a victim of the world you see. Mistakes, seen through the eyes of love, are simply choices that taught you where not to go, and often where to return. The truth is, we're not perfect. We're here to be real. And in our realness, which is flawed and raw and glorious, we become the brush in the hands of Spirit, painting light into the world. When we stop hiding our mistakes and become curious about what the divine can create from it, we've changed our mistakes into art. We can walk through life afraid of the mess or curious about what the divine might create from the mess. So go make a mistake. Make a bold, beautiful, blessed mess. And because every oops you make might just be the universe saying to you, let's create something new. And so in summary, how might you see your mistakes as art? Well, recognize mistakes as brush strokes on your life's canvas. Remember to step outside the lines so you can find your own soul's desires. Make happy little accidents and use your creativity. Reframe those mistakes as opportunities. Create an oops gallery and celebrate what you've learned. Know that mistakes bring new color to your soul. And as Kennedy said, be willing to fail miserably to achieve greatly. Take a chance so you can achieve something amazing. Remember, even in your flaws, you are a masterpiece in motion. And know that mistakes are just divine redirections. So here's your affirmation for the week. How is it I so willingly, energetically, and effortlessly recognize mistakes as brushstrokes on my life canvas, reframe mistakes as opportunities, and am willing to fail miserably to achieve greatly? So your challenge for the week is to notice your mistakes this week and notice how you reacted to them. Commit to using some of those spiritual practices to enhance your ability to see those mistakes as art and not as flaws. We gave you lots of them in today's lessons, or make up your own. I'm so glad you joined us today. Let's end with prayer. Let's see our mistakes as art on our life's canvas. Divine Presence, may each of us remember to ask ourselves daily, What might Spirit be making of this mistake? And maybe be brave enough to know that each of our mistakes is an opportunity to create something new in our lives. Maybe trust that our mistakes are just divine redirections, a sacred seed that Spirit is watering. We are each brushstrokes in the hands of Spirit, painting light into the world. And what I know to be the truth is that each of us has heard something today that's helping us to live in our creative expression and see that our mistakes truly can be art. I see each of us as the embodiment of divine love. So we ask Spirit to guide our steps with wisdom, to fill our days with gentleness and vision. And let each of us be rooted in peace and lifted by love, choosing today to live in divine alignment with the truth of our being. I'm grateful for each person who has chosen to spend some time with us today to hear this message. And I'm grateful that we can go forth today with courage and joy and an open heart, knowing we are guided to vision what is possible in our lives and to see all of those mistakes as just another brushstroke on a canvas. So it's from great gratitude and with joy, bliss, and blessings that I release these words into the law of mind, spirit, and action, knowing the truth. The divine has already said yes. So I say amen, and we can affirm it together. And so it is. And I thank each of you for showing up today and everyone that's contributing to our community so that we can continue to bring these services to you. I am so very grateful for your presence in this community and in my life. Enjoy our offertory song.